Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Spider-Man Wave 14 Stilt-Man Build-A-Figure. We have the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie Miles Morales figure. Very exciting to get another Miles Morales figure. We have like the suit version, which was okay, but there's some new things going on with this one. Even though it's not the full suit, there are some really cool things that I am very excited to go over. So looking at the figure, we have him in the shorts and the jacket. He does not have the Jordans, unfortunately. We get the masked head. We get a set of interchangeable hands. We get the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse logo there. We get it there. Side artwork of Miles Morales looks very good. Looking at the back of the package, we have the Stilt-Man Build-A-Figure. All the figures in the wave. We are at Miles Morales because we went reverse order, so Stilt-Man will be next. The bio for Miles Morales reads, a Brooklyn native and just 13 years old, Miles Morales is a Spider-Man unlike any we've ever seen before. Let's open it up. Okay, and there is the Miles Morales figure out of the package. So before we get into the review, I do want to mention that I ordered mine from toysnowman.com. They are a Canada-based online seller. They got their shipment of this wave in, seems like before anybody else. So I placed my order. They shipped out the very next day. So make sure to check out toysnowman.com. Link in the video description below for their site. So here, Miles Morales, very awesome figure, some cool things going on with it, but there are some troublesome, worrisome things going on. So you have to be very careful. So let's zoom in for the accessories, and then we'll zoom in for the Miles Morales figure, and we'll talk about what you should be really careful with. So let's do it. Okay, so for accessories, he comes with the masked head sculpt, which is all new. And what I really like is it has the raised web pattern on there. So it really helps stand out. You get a red outline for the lens and then white for the actual lenses themselves. But lo and behold, there's a dumbbell joint actually inside the head sculpt. So you know that this is not going to work with any other figures or anything like that. That's not something that you're going to be able to switch out, which still, again, wouldn't really make sense in this context either of the figure because no web lines. So for all those that keep asking for some of these weird head swaps, it just doesn't make sense to me, and it really wouldn't work. So that is that. Here we have an additional set of interchangeable hands. So out of the package, he has a thwipping hand for his right. We get an extra one for his left. On his left hand, he has a fist. We get an extra one for the right. So now let's take a look at the Miles Morales figure, and there he is. And I think this likeness is very good. I'm not going to say great because I think there are some things going on with it. I think his cheeks look a little bit chubby. He looks a little bit younger than he actually did in the movie. And he looks kind of sad and depressed. And I get some parts of the movie he was. But, you know, I think we could have had a little bit more of a neutral face. And it could be that it's supposed to be neutral. It just looks a little bit sad. But it looks good. We have the digital print on there. It looks really good. I kind of have a scuff mark or something on the forehead on mine. I'm sure that's not going to be on everyone's. Looking at the side view, looks really good. But it's a huge improvement over the regular Ultimate version that we got in that Target exclusive 2-pack. So, you know, good job Hasbro for actually giving us a movie accurate head sculpt instead of this one there, which was no good. So we get this one. So I really like it. Looking at the rest of the figure, yes, we don't get the Jordans. It's just red and white shoes. Obviously, Hasbro would not have the license to be able to do that unless they paid probably an astronomical amount for Jordan and Nike to allow for the shoe to be in the action figure. You know, it's a different license when it comes to movie and into merchandise and things like that, so that's why they couldn't just do it. Looking at the figure, we actually get the web line pattern actually sculpted on there, which is really nice. We have pinless knees. These legs are extremely thin, so you have to be careful. It is kind of hard to get him to stand up because of that. The ankle pivot is definitely an issue trying to work those pivots, so be very careful with that as well. The shorts there look really good. The suit, I really like the suit. We get that raised web pattern in there. We get that spray painted spider logo on there. But if you look, he is extremely thin. Like, he's tiny, but he was in the movie, so it kind of works. My worry is that when you do that into action figure form, They're just not as durable or strong. As much as it's, you know, movie accurate, I love it, but it's worrisome, if that makes sense. The jacket looks really good, and we have the hoodie underneath, and the way they did that is, you know, it's kind of in there, and then that's cut for the sleeve. But the hood is actually glued onto the jacket, so whereas the hoodie and the jacket are separate pieces, they are glued together, so it's not like you're going to actually be able to separate them or anything. So there is the close-up view. Now let's zoom out for his articulation. Okay, so Miles, he can look down that much, he can look up that much. So good articulation in the head. You get a full rotation, of course, and there is an insane amount of holy shit, a crazy amount of pivot going on in there because we have that dumbbell joint. So that is what is going on there. You get the shoulders to go up that high. You get a full rotation, of course. Unfortunately, there is only a single jointed elbow and a swivel at that elbow. That usually happens when it comes to jacketed arms. You have an elbow joint that gives you a solid 90-degree bend there. The wrists swivel and they do hinge. They have the horizontal hinge. Now here on the ab, much like the Peter B. Parker ab, so we do get an ab crunch. So crunching him forward, it's a lot better than on this one than on that one. So we can crunch forward that much. Back is going to be an issue because of the jacket. It just is. And then we get, just like G.I. Joe Classified series, the waist ball. So you can actually tilt him to the side, tilt him to the other side. You can tilt him forward. So that's forward without the ab crunch. With the ab crunch going forward, you get that much. And then you can go back, and that actually doesn't get hindered by the jacket so much. The ab crunch does, but that waist ball, not so much. And then you do get a turn at that waist, so that is really nice. Legs go out that far apart. He can kick forward that high, and then you can kind of twist it and get it around up that much. There is no upper thigh cut. However, above the knee in the shorts, there is a swivel in there, so just be very careful because he has very thin legs, but you can get a little bit of twist going in there. Now with the pinless, it's said to be much more durable than the previous pin versions for these points of articulation, which cause, you know, some gumminess and whatnot. So the knee, you get a solid double jointed knee, and it doesn't feel gummy at all. It feels very, very solid, so I'm not concerned about that. Even though it's a very thin leg, I am not concerned, so it holds up quite nice. There is no calf swivel, however, so that is, you know, something that you kind of have to deal with. There's no turn at the shoe either, so don't try it. You might snap it. Ankle pivot, but be very, very careful not to force it too fast. Be very careful and slow with it, but you can get that ankle pivot going in there. Peg holes at the bottom of the feet, foot hinges all the way down, hinges up a little bit, but again, be very careful with those ankles. So there is Miles's articulation. Now let's see some side-by-side comparisons. Okay, so the side-by-side comparison with the suited version from the movie in that Target exclusive 2-pack, and you can see that this Miles Morales is actually a little bit taller. So a lot of my criticism on this figure was that it was just too short. This Miles Morales is still very short, but he is a little bit taller, and then some of that is going to be because of his hair being a little bit taller, but I do like the height on this new one compared to the other one. I still do wish he was a little bit taller, and maybe my size is just thrown off. I haven't seen the movie in quite a while to see how they look, but you'll see kind of how he stacks up next to Prowler, next to Peter B. Parker, next to Gwen Stacy, but they do kind of hold up. I mean, obviously this one has thicker body parts because it was just based on the comic version. They didn't really go for the film accurate total aesthetic and overall look, whereas this one does with the really thin proportions. So let's see those other comparisons. Okay, Miles next to the Prowler, and they see the Prowler just looks quite large compared to Miles, and I'm trying to think back in the movie, and I don't think they were this big a difference in height. Maybe I'm wrong, but he seems very undersized to me. But I get it. He was small in the movie. Just, I don't know, throws it off a little bit for me. Okay, Miles next to Peter B. Parker, and I don't know, maybe the height difference doesn't look so bad between them two. And of course, Gwen Stacy in this height does look really good. Gwen, yes, was taller than him, but looking at these two side by side, it's not nearly as noticeable as when I had like the suited version, which just seems crazy short in comparison. To me, this one doesn't look nearly as bad, so I'm very, very pleased with that. And one thing I forgot to show as my hand gets in the way is Spider-Ham. If I can get Spider-Ham to balance, because that's the trouble with this little guy. But there they are next to each other, and that looks really good. Okay, final comparison. I have that basic Spider-Man figure there, and those actually can kind of work out a little bit well, right? If anything, of course, this figure is a little bit on the short side, but you can kind of fudge it. It works. One thing I did forget to mention is he comes with the Build-A-Figure part for the Stilt-Man, which is going to be this armor piece or whatever that is. So that goes off to the side. I did not show this yet, but let's do the head swap of the Miles Morales. So the head pops off. You can see the dumbbell joint stays with the Miles Morales head, and we just get that peg hole for the neck. Like so. So it's very different from what we are, you know, normally used to. Not sure why Hasbro went that route and what the thinking on that was. It is kind of weird, but there is the head sculpt on there, and I really like it. It has that very stylized shape and look to it. So I really like that. I can really see Miles Morales' head actually under that mask, if that makes sense. Looking at the head shape, I think that came out looking fantastic. I really, really like that. I'm going to display him with the Miles Morales head, of course, but that looks really good. I'm trying to think back in the movie and if he wore the mask while wearing the jacket and stuff. And he probably did while jumping off the building, but I know a lot of the promo images and stuff for the movie show this, whereas in the movie I clearly remember the Miles head sculpt being on there, but that looks really, really nice. Okay, so for my final thoughts on this figure, I'm very, very happy with it. I think what would have set this off is if the Miles Morales likeness was just a little bit fine-tuned, or maybe we got like a half mask where he kind of pulls the mask over his head, kind of like the Peter B. Parker, you know, how the mask is pulled over his head. If we got something like that, that would have been awesome. If we got the full-on suit, that would be great. Again, hoping for like a 2-pack when the sequel comes out of the suited figure with a suited Spider-Man Peter B. Parker figure. I would love to see that, but I'm very happy with this. Although, again, I can't stress enough, be very careful with the ankles. Be very careful with some of those really thin pieces. It looks fantastic in terms of movie accuracy and how he looked for the movie, but those proportions scare me in action figure form. So, you know, if they were a little bit thicker, I would have been completely fine with it and okay with it, but it's worrisome. But the figure is fantastic. I think it's a must-have, one of the absolute best from the wave. The Peter B. Parker is awesome. Prowler is really good. Gwen Stacy blew my mind how much better it is than I thought it actually really would be. But I think I am leaning towards Miles Morales being my favorite figure of the wave because it just looks overall fantastic. I love the suit design with the raised web lines. Just looks really, really nice. I like the points of articulation in the torso. If only we have that in full figure form, it would really stand out and be amazing. But you guys let me know in the comments below what you think of this figure. I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.